Hello and welcome to Things That Fall Out of My Head. Today we're going to be having a little bit of a different video. I thought it might be worth going over how I go about doing research into whatever project I'm going to be doing next. In this case it's going to be an Assassin's Creed project. I've done a couple of these in the past, but I wanted to go back and do it again now that it's been a few years since I attempted this, so hopefully my skills have improved a little bit and I can improve on what I've done before. Firstly, let me apologise for the footage playing in the background at the moment. My HD game capture card decided that it didn't want to work with my new laptop, so I ended up having to stream my Xbox through my laptop and record it from there, and it's just something to keep you occupied while I ramble on in the background. But yes, I'm aware the video quality of it is terrible, but we're going to have to live with it for now. So where do I start when it comes to planning a project like this? Because this is going to involve props, costume elements, some of which I'm going to be using bought patterns for. Some of them, inevitably, I'm going to have to make patterns for myself. So I normally start with going to the game itself. It sounds stupid, but the source of what you're trying to emulate is always the best thing to go to. So in this case, I'm going to be trying to use the game as a bit of a jumping off point. The main difference in the project I'm going to be doing this time around is, rather than trying to faithfully replicate something within the game, I want to do my take on it. Not saying my take is going to be any better or any worse than what we already have. I just find it interesting with a game like Assassin's Creed Unity, which is set in a very particular place during actual events that occurred in history, how the game interprets the fashion of the time, how the characters look, and how that's then sort of extrapolated out into the player characters' outfits. Because a lot of the outfits in the game are based on historical garments, even some of the more flamboyant or outlandish ones. So for this project, being I don't want to say a fan of the French Revolution, but being a history fan, I find the French Revolution an incredibly interesting point in time. I'm devouring all of the documentaries on YouTube that I can about it. I find it fascinating, particularly from the point of view of the uprising of the working and lower classes, what is termed more popularly as the sans-culotte. I promise I'm not going to try and do correct pronunciation for everything. I don't want to be that guy that has to say everything absolutely correctly, so we'll just call them the sans-culotte. But it's the idea of the sort of the working class people rising up against the oppressive higher classes that really intrigues me. So if we're going to be looking to replicate the sans-culotte outfit, but not necessarily exactly as the game does it, because although some of the elements are correct from my research, there's a lot of it where you can tell they've got the, in air quotes, Assassin's Creed filter on history. And it's not just the events that happen, but also the way that the characters look, what they're wearing. There's always this kind of Assassin's Creed Ubisoft veneer over everything that makes everything hyper detailed or hyper realistic. That's enough talking around the subject. Let's actually get into the menu screen here. We'll have a look at some of the outfits and outfit pieces in general, just to see what the game is working with and where I'm going to be differing in my approach. So let's get in and have a look what we're working with, what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to change. We'll have a look at the weapons later, because I'm going to allow myself a bit of indulgence there and go maybe something not so historical with those. So, I mean, the hood is the staple part of the Assassin's Creed costume. It's present in every iteration of every character, pretty much. This is where it's a little bit more difficult on the historical side, because traditionally hoods weren't really worn like this. I mean, again, I'm not an expert on any of this. I'm a very amateurist enthusiast. But I think here these hoods with a little trail off the back were taken from the is it the Phrygian cap, which is a revolutionary piece of headwear, sort of indicative of the sans-culotte movement. So the hood's going to be open to a little bit more interpretation. At the basic levels of the sans-culotte costume, it's a lot of waistcoats and shirts, which is absolutely fine. You know, I think that waistcoat was done up on the wrong side, but yeah, I mean, as you go up through the levels, it's a waistcoat on a waistcoat, which I guess is a step up. But again, it's still these very basic costume elements. Even again here at the highest level, I think this is the highest level, the legendary. It's a waistcoat on a waistcoat. You've got a cravat in there, and then these interesting looking leather sleeves. Yeah, and a pair of crossed belts for some reason across the chest. I can't really see what they're doing. Okay, let's have a look at the hidden blade, because again, this is something that's not going to be taken from history. By this point in time, people weren't wearing vambraces, even as part of military kit. You know, this had gone out of usage a long time before this. But I think with this, I'm just going to pick a design that I like and go with it. Trousers, again, I think the trousers should be full front trousers, but I wouldn't swear to that 100%. I mean, certainly, yeah, stripy's fine. Again, I don't know what these leather patches are for on the outside of the trousers. You'd sometimes see it on the inside if you're going to be riding a lot. You've got like reinforced seats and inner thighs on trousers, but I don't really know what they're doing there apart from the aesthetics on the outside of the trousers. But either way, for boots, I mean, the shoes in this game aren't terribly accurate. I mean, there's those ones there with the buckle on the front. They are more accurate. But again, tall boots, yes, they'd be fine. Little things like the medieval legs that are just pieces of cloth tied around the shins. I mean, I like those. I like the gaiters, the Napoleonic gaiters. I think they look great. I might have to try and find a pattern for those or make one myself, because they kind of period accurate and I add a bit of interest to the lower half of the costume. But this is basically what we're working with from the game. The basic costume elements of a shirt and one or many waistcoats, one on top of the other. There's nothing inherently wrong with any of that. I think because of what they're trying to represent, there's only so far wrong you can go with what is meant to be representing the common folks' dress. So, you know, it's not ever going to be much more than a pair of trousers, a shirt, a waistcoat. Just because that's, you know, it's pretty hard to get that wrong, and it's pretty hard to go too far away from that. It's only going to be in the cut of it, or these extra little elements like the crossed belts that go across the chest that are going to be wildly different to what actually existed in France in the 1780s and 90s. Now, I mentioned before that the weapons were going to be the place where I was going to allow myself to go historically inaccurate, so we're kind of doing the converse here. In the game, the weapons are all pretty much, you know, based on actual historical weapons, and the outfits are kind of more fanciful. But I'm going to flip it around, do as accurate a costume as I can do, and give myself a little bit of indulgence as far as weapons. So we also, of course, need to bear in mind where we're going to be if we're going to go to an event in wearing this. In the, you know, weapons can't look too realistic and shouldn't look too realistic, so it won't cause any problems on that front. As far as swords go, I'm going to be probably using a 3D printed kit for this. I've handmade swords out of plastic before, plastic and milliput, and just, you know, sanded it all down by hand, and made it as faithfully accurate as I can. But I think to save myself a bit of time, we're going to go with a 3D printed kit. Probably not something like this, although I do have one of these that I've made already somewhere in the cupboard in my crafting room. I might get that out for a video and show you what I made there, but I loved that weapon. Yeah, everything available in the game is fairly accurate and historical. I mean, there's some little bits on the firearms that aren't 100%. I will be doing a gun to go with this. I'll do that in a separate video on its own, because I'm going to buy that as a replica. Obviously non-functioning, non-firing, it's just a piece of wood with a couple of bits of metal screwed to it. But there's a couple of things I want to do to that. I want to, strip down the finish on it, repaint it, and give it a bit more of a personal touch. As far as the gauntlets go, I mean, it's interesting to look at this game coming out before Syndicate, because I think you can really see some of the design influences that went into the gauntlets for Syndicate. It's just a nice little carryover as an Assassin's Creed fan. But there's a lot to choose from here. There's a lot of different styles, going from the very early medieval looking things up to ones like this. I really like that cuff, like double back cuff approach to these. I think it looks kind of in keeping with the time. It makes it a little bit more interesting, and then you've got all these little embellishments on there. You could maybe put wire through it to help it keep the curves and the shapes, but that's something we can look at in another video when I actually come to looking at the Hidden Blade Gauntlet. So how does all of this rambling and talking about computer game clothing design, how does that translate into me trying to work out what patterns I'm going to use and how I'm going to go about putting this outfit together? Well, from the in-game model for the Sans-Culotte outfit, I'm going to need trousers, not the knee breech type that were popular among the aristocracy for obvious reasons. So I'm going to be looking at something a little bit slouchy, maybe, in a whatever colour I choose, probably a muted grey or brown like that. I need to find, or certainly do some research on shirts to see what kind of shirt would have been worn in the late 1700s. Likewise with waistcoats, I mean, you can say waistcoat design doesn't change particularly much over time, but there's going to be particular changes that are particular to the period, so we'll need to have a look at that. And I also want to do some kind of jacket, because I just think it'll add, layers are important when it comes to costumes in general, because it just adds another layer of interest, and it also allows you to add another colour, another texture, because these are all important things when you're putting together something that looks and feels real. It's something, just to go on a small tangent, as I'm want to do, it's one of my biggest bugbears in film and television, when people are dressed in costumes that don't have any difference in texture to them. So I like to use a lot of linen in what I make because it has a really nice texture to it. And then of course you can put that up against something like a corduroy, which is a completely different look and feel. And then you can also put that up against things like cottons or denims, which have a different weave to the linen. It's subtle, but it does make a difference, and it's something that I try to include in whatever I'm working on. Over to our old friend Google now. Let's see what we can find out about what we need to be doing here. We'll start off very basically and just type in sans-culotte and see what that comes up with. We'll put clothing in there. Okay, let's have a look at the images, and seems to be a few images. Looks like we've got a couple of actual historical items there, and this particular painting, which comes up whenever you search anything to do with sans-culotte. But compared to the game model that we've just looked at, there are elements there which carry over quite nicely. So you've got the not particularly well-fitted trousers. Those are full front, I think. I mean, presumably this guy is wearing a shirt. He's got the necktie on, which we saw on a couple of the game models, and of course the waistcoat. So yes, it looks like those are the elements we need to include in a more historically accurate version of the costume. Again here, I'm not sure how that shirt does up. It looks to be some kind of strange crossways collar, but I've not really seen that before in researching this time period, so okay, we're not going to have to copy that exactly. Again here we've got turned down boots, so that gives us another option. I mean, we have to question how valid some of these sources are going to be, because a lot of them will just be from random search engine results and potentially even worse, the dreaded Pinterest. Which, for all its pluses, that thing can be a real pain in the arse when you're trying to research something and cite where the pictures have come from. But, if we can see some kind of consistency across all of the different pictures we're looking at, then I think we're good enough to assume that it is a fair representation of the time period. I mean, just clicking through a few of these images, again, you've got shirts, you've got waistcoats, interesting long coat there, first time I've seen that on a representation of a sans-culotte. The guy in the middle there almost looks to be wearing a French military tunic, albeit cut off just below the waist. You can just see on that middle figure he's got two little turned back red facings just below his waistline. That would normally be on the full length garment, which comes down almost to the knee. That is where the front and back of the lower half are folded to meet each other. You can sort of see it on Connor's coat in Assassin's Creed 3, the way the front is pulled back and pinned away from the leg. That's how the front and the back side of the French military tunic were fastened. So it's interesting because it looks like it's just been cut off a bit short. This I actually really like the design of. There's that Phrygian cap that we referred to earlier when we were looking at the hoods. It's another symbol of the revolution with the tricolour coquette on there. But this, I think, is kind of the direction I'm going to go in. I really like the style of that jacket. It's very high-waisted. Seems to finish somewhere above the hips. Guessing it's made of wool from the way it hangs? Question mark. But again, there's these stripy, sort of baggy, very workmanlike trousers. I'm not going to attempt to make trousers for this particular outfit because coming up in an unrelated video, it's actually a Ghost of Tsushima inspired costume that I did. I made trousers for that and never again, but more on that another time. So yeah, looking through these appear to actually be extant garments. Oh, there we go, there's that picture again, and some... there we are, okay. Not quite as much information as we would like, but like that previous blue coat, it seems to be quite short. I'm not sure what pocket flaps are doing there, because there doesn't appear to be too much room for a pocket in there. But this sort of shorter garment is something that I really like the look of. I think we'll go with something like that. It's unusual on a jacket of that style to have those big turn-back lapels as well. But again, it's quite a striking looking garment. Might have to see if we can find out a little bit more about this one, where it came from, and if there's any more examples of it. But let's keep going for now. There's that garment again. Where's this going to? Okay. Oh, okay. A Carmagnole jacket. Okay. At least we know what it's called now. It's the right time period. 1790 to 1800. Okay, so bit more blurb here. Sorry, I'm scanning it for now. You can pause the video and read it if you want to. But for now, let's just have a quick look at the jacket. Oh, a zoom function. Lovely. We like a bit of zoom. So, what have we got here? Looks to be hand-finished edges. I'm really wondering why those pocket flaps are there. But, yeah, so it just looks to be some kind of dark... There's a couple of different fabrics going on there as well. Yeah. What is... So that's a turned back edge, but why are there pockets there? I mean, what something like this does in my mind is, coupled with the earlier coat we saw, which I commented on, it looked like it had been cut down from a much longer garment, is this what's happened with this particular coat? I mean, there's no reference to it in the blurb, but looking at... Because again, you've got those divides in the back, those little pleated sections. And normally they are included in much longer garments so that you can add a dart in there to give the skirt section a bit more volume. and it will hang better and look better. They're just a little bit redundant on here. Which, I mean, could this have been cut down from a longer garment? I mean, the edge there does seem very rough, but that could also just be where it's unravelled over time. I mean, the edges on the front all seem to be hand sewn, so I mean, it could be, I mean, that could be how it's designed. It just seems like a lot of extra effort to include those two tiny little darted sections on something so short. But as I say, I'm not an expert on this. I'm just reporting what I observe. Let's have another look at this this blue jacket that I liked so much. Okay. Ah, there we are. Right. Any more on this one? Not really. Okay. Might have to see if we can find another source for this and dig it into it a bit further. But again, it's that short, high-waisted coat design. I mean, we can't really see it from this picture, but yeah, it does seem to be. I do like that style though. It's unusual. It kind of, especially in that colour as well. Anyway, let's see what else we've got on here, because I think we're running out of useful links in sans-culotte clothing. Just have another quick scan. There's a couple of other jackets there we might need to return to later to have a look at. But yeah, I think that's pretty much exhausted it for now. So let's have a look for something else. So, sans-culotte trousers. Yeah, I think that might be a little bit too much of a specific Google search for for it to be able to bring up anything particularly useful for us. Okay. Yeah, let's try something else, shall we? So let's try that specific term we saw earlier, the Carmagnole jacket. Okay, so more of the red one we saw earlier. I think that's the same website. Let's have a quick look at this one to see if it brings us up anything different. Oh, there we go. So, yeah, looks like we're about the right time period. Made of wool. Haha, well done me for guessing. But yeah, Sorry, I'm trying to look at this and talk at the same time. But yeah, I like the silhouette of that. I think that could look quite good. I might even have some linen in my cupboard in that colour left over from another project. So that's something just to bear in mind. Right then, let's go back and have a look at a couple of these other examples here. That looks to be another extant example. Carmagnole, yeah, lovely. I do read some French, but I'm not going to be able to deal with all of this. Yeah, okay. But again, it seems to be a similar, I mean, it almost looks like a modern peacoat with the doubled back lapels and the line of buttons down the front. 3 buttons on that one. I think there was 3 on the previous blue one we looked at as well. That one's got a fold down collar, and I think the red one we looked at had a standing collar. But let's have a look, see if we can find any more images of it. Okay, they don't seem to be particularly useful in this occasion, but okay, let's keep going, see if there's anything else we can find. There's another example, again, with the turn back lapels. That one also has a standing collar, and again, these really high pocket flaps. There's a bit more space there than there is on some of the others to actually have pockets in there, but again, I don't know quite what they're doing there. But actually, here we go. These jackets, these shorter jackets so far have reminded me of this particular style of coating, which is more like what the aristocracy or the well-to-do would have been wearing at the time. And it's strange looking at those shorter jackets that I really like. They kind of look like the top half of one of these tailcoats. I mean, the extent to which the tailcoats cut away at the front differed depending on preference or how the tailor made it. But especially with that dark red one we saw earlier, where I was commenting on how the bottom edge looks like it may have been cut. I mean, it's probably just a flight of fancy on my part, but it almost looks like someone's cut the tails and the lower section off of a tailcoat, maybe in form of protest or to fit in with the other sans-culottes, as a sign of protest. But it's an interesting thought. I'm sure there's no historical merit to it, but flight of fancy, it just reminds me of that a little bit. I mean, I can't be the only person who's looked at this after looking at a tailcoat and thinking, yeah, that's definitely been cut off and then the raw edge turned under and sewn, because then that would explain, go away temporary closure. That would also explain the position of the pockets, because if the garment was longer, you'd have room for the pocket bags, and those pocket placements would make sense. Again, no historical basis for this. Nothing I've ever seen, what we're looking at now, or in any previous research that I've done, shows anything like that. So let's have another little look here. Let's have a look what we're dealing with for shoes. Okay, I think I'm going to have trouble finding something that's going to match any of these. Yeah, and I'm not sure quite how much I'm going to be wanting to walk around in what look like slippers. But okay, let's try something else. You see, I want something that is going to at least look correct. They don't have to be spot on, but these kind of look like what we saw in the game very briefly, that kind of plain fronting with the buckle on there. I'm guessing they work just like normal buckled shoes, but with a really wide strap. Okay, seems to be pretty consistent. Almost, yeah, I mean, I'm sure those are great for the money. Yeah, can't go wrong. Okay, we'll bookmark those for later. But let's see if there's anything here that looks like it might be something we can use. Because again, I'm not going to be making my own shoes. That's well outside my skill set. So it's going to have to be something we buy. But let's have a look at these 17th and 18th century shoes. £60. I mean, that's a lot of money for something that you're going to use maybe a few times, but they do look very good. And I think this is a UK-based company as well, so I might have to inquire with them. Do they do my size? Okay. I mean, these look promising. Again, I'm not going to buy them now. I'm going to do a little bit more research on this because, again, if we're going to be having some kind of data over the top of it, it's possible we could use a cheaper modern shoe and just hide most of it. But there's certainly some interesting options on this website. I mean, they're the only ones that have that specific buckle on there. But again, I mean, there's tall boot options, and for boots that are going to be made to order, or that certainly they're not going to be a mass-produced item that they're going to be selling hundreds and hundreds of. These don't look too badly priced. I mean, some of these actually look like more modern boots anyway. I mean, £58 for a pair of leather boots. I mean, that's not bad for an actual pair of boots. I mean, I imagine these are going to be smooth leather soles, so they're not something that I would wear day to day, but certainly there are options here if we're going to be looking to buy some boots. I mean, I've got a pair of boots that look pretty much like that anyway, but hey, it's nice to know that the people out there are making these things. Anyway, back to Google. We've been rambling on now for quite some time, so let's have a little look at the last couple of bits we need to sort of have a quick look at, and that's going to be the waistcoats and the shirts. The waistcoats here, they do look pretty similar to the waistcoats in the game. They've got that little turn back just at the top there with a standing collar. Although there are some without collars as well. Just seeing if there's anything in particular that we need to pay attention to. Both single and double rows of buttons. don't think there's going to be too much of a problem just using whatever historical waistcoat pattern I've got to hand. And I know I've got a couple in the drawer, so I'll have to have a look and see. But let's have a look at the shirts quickly as well, because these tend to vary quite a lot depending on the time period. But these all seem to be fairly baggy. I mean, fitted shirts aren't really something that come in around this time. So again, I think we're going to be pretty free to use any historical pattern that I've got. Again, I've got a couple of shirts that are my go-to, so let's just have a quick look. See if we can generalise this a little bit more, see if it gives us any more of an idea. I mean, I'm going to stay away from ruffles and things on the front, just not my preference, but yeah, maybe something just like open-necked with a collar, a little bit on the baggy side, but yeah, I think we should be able to find something. Chances are I've already got, in fact I know I've got patterns in the drawer at the moment that I can probably use for this. Right, let's wrap this up here for today. I've been recording for about an hour. You've probably been watching this for something like half an hour once I've cut it down. You can only imagine how much more I've talked and then cut out. So what we know from the little dive we've done today is we're going to be needing the bought elements are going to be more than likely the shoes. If I can't find something else that works, we're going to be needing to buy trousers because I'm not making those again. But we're going to be making a shirt for which we need an accurate historical pattern as far as we can. We're going to be making a waistcoat, we'll need the same for that. And we're also going to be making a jacket, one of those short, high-waisted jackets, which I found instantly so fascinating as a historical piece of clothing. So we're going to need to find a pattern that we can adapt or something that I can alter. I don't really want to be patterning up an entire coat for something that I think I can adapt from something else. But we'll have a look at that maybe in the next video, along with maybe some options for the weapons. But yeah, I'll put in some more research behind the scenes, and hopefully next time around I'll have the patterns picked out, maybe have some fabric ideas as well. And once I've found ones that I like, there will be an unboxing for the 3D printed hidden blade, which I already know which one I'm going with. I've bought from them before. I'm just going to order another one. And once I've found a sword that I like, I'll get that in and we can do an unboxing of that. I'll try and do them both together, just keep it in one video, and we'll see how we progress from there. So thank you so much to everyone who made it this far in the video. Hopefully it's been informative in how I go about looking at my silly projects that I get involved in. If you have any questions about any of this, if there's anything you wanted to add, drop a comment down below. Drop me a like if you found this informative or useful in any way, and subscribe if you want to keep up with the project, and I'll see you next time. Cheers all.